have a question for everyone. How many people in here have kids? Okay, leave them up. Leave them up. If you don't have kids, how many people have seen a kid? Yes? Okay, good. We got everyone in the room then. Good. We know what kids are. I've got 2 kids, and I told you about one of them earlier. I have a boy and a girl, and they still do this. She's younger, but they're brother and sister. I had brothers, sisters, so it just every once in a while it happens. And they're both equally at fault as far as how many times they're the one who instigated it. But let's assume that I saw the whole thing this time and broke it up. I still think she could take him, but I do usually break it up. So let's assume that I broke it up. She started the whole thing this time. Cassidy, get over here and apologize to your brother right now. I'm sorry. Now we'll time out. Child's example, but I want you to take Cassidy's communication right there, and you tell me. Let's look at 3 channels. We call them the visual, the verbal, and the vocal. Those are the 3 channels all humans communicate with. So, verbally, did she say the right words? Oh, yes, she sure did. No one can deny that. She said, I'm sorry. Vocally, does she sound sincerely sorry? No. What about body language, the visual? Does she look like she is sincerely sorry? No. The true interpretation of what she just sent is, I'm not really sorry, I'm just sorry I got caught. When Dad walks out of the room, I'm going to do it again. Right? That would be the interpretation. We all need to understand that when you communicate with people, you're communicating through 3 channels, visual, verbal, and vocal. What you say, how you say it, and the body language that you show, including facial expressions, when that happens. And so you may have heard the expression, it's not what you say, it's what? How you say it. Guess what? Kevin and I disagree with that. Here's what we like to say. It's not what you say. It's not how you say it. It's what they hear that's most important. Because if you look at it that way, you're putting the focus where it belongs, on the audience. It's not so much about what you say and how you say it if that's all you're focusing on. You need to focus on how are they going to hear this? What are they going to hear when I deliver that? Now, I've been married for 20 years. Now, we've had plenty of good times, a couple of rough times, but we work through them. That's what couples do. If my wife were to say to me during one of those conversations, well, why'd you have to say it like that? I said, say it like what? And she goes, no. And I'm thinking to myself in my head, I didn't say it like that. Roll the tape. Did someone film it? I didn't say it that way. And I know in my head I didn't say it that way. But then I realized something. I don't get to vote. In this election, she's the audience. And what my wife just shared with me is, this is what I heard. And that sounds awful, doesn't it? Sorry to let you know that you don't get a vote either, if that ever happens. They're just sharing with you what they heard. What they heard. When we're delivering to our audiences, we want to put the focus where it belongs, on the audience. What are they going to hear if I say this and if I say it in this way? And Kevin's going to go over what you say and how you say it, saying it like you mean it. For right now, let's focus on the body language portion of this. Body language. What you're sending visually to the other person. Let's just start with, if you're speaking in a larger environment like this, or even in a conference room, you have what's called a stage area. And I want us to focus just for a moment on your stance. On your stance. I'm going to give one example here, and then I'm going to ask Cynthia to come up and be my lovely assistant to show you some of the other stances as well. So the first is, I want you to be familiar with space that's around you. Space that's around you is in 4 different rings. You have what's called intimate space, which is right up against you, and very few people are allowed there. Then you have around that personal space. Everyone's familiar with what that is, because when someone encroaches on your personal space, you know it. You can sense it, right? It's about an 18-inch radius circle that's around you. Outside that, you have social space, and then beyond that, you have what's called public space. But let's focus on this 18-inch circle right around you. When you're speaking, what we'd like you to do is ground yourself in that circle, wherever you're comfortable, and in most cases, you'll want to balance yourself in kind of what we call a central position to the entire audience. Then, the audience doesn't want a statue up here, right? We like movement. We like variety. We want natural movement. And so we're going to want you to move at some point. And so the suggestion is that you find some other spots on the floor that you can move to. If you don't find the spots ahead of time, then you end up having conversations in your head because your legs are saying, hey, we want to move, we want to move. It's like, would you stop? I'm talking right now. Come on, we want to move, let us move. Fine then, start walking to the left. Okay. Meanwhile, you're still talking, and inside your head you're saying, should we stop now? Should we stop? No, keep going. I think this is pretty good. Keep going. I'm comfortable. Wait a minute, we got our back to some people. Let's take a step back. Step back? Really? Right here? No, that wasn't good. Let's go a little bit further. You have this whole dialogue going on inside your head, and we don't want that to happen. So Cynthia, if I can bring you over here, when you have a certain stance, there are different types of stances, and they will send different messages. The first one that will show you is what's called a receiving position. It's very similar to handcuffs. So you just put your hands behind you like this. It's called a receiving position because it's not giving to the audience. If you were giving something to the audience, naturally, what would you do? Your hands would be out in front of you somehow, right? So when they're behind you, the message that you're sending is, you're in charge right now. So when do you think I do this in a workshop? Question. If I get a question, I'm speaking, someone raises their hand with a question, I will turn and look at them and I put my hands behind my back. It's a receiving position. Very similar to it is a rest position. Rest position is also called fig leaf. You can probably figure out why. So the hand comes back in front, and that's called fig leaf. That's also a rest position. It's a great position to be in if you're waiting to talk. If you present in teams, you could have people off to the side waiting to speak. That would be a comfortable position for them to be in. Keep in mind, we don't want people standing too long because knees locked and things happen, right? So, okay, so now let's show them next Superman, but we'll do a modified Superman. So there you go, exhale. There we go. So Superman is just hands on hips, but there's two different versions of it. And what Cynthia just did is she showed almost like she's just exhaled, like she just finished something. And so sometimes you'll see speakers do this towards the end of their presentation. They'll do this, and they just kind of exhale and let the shoulders go down. Now, if we tighten it up, and what I mean by that is take the same pose and turn it into something much bolder and stronger, you'll notice that she inhales, chin comes up, shoulders go back. If you've been in the military, you probably recognize some of what she's doing there. It's almost coming to attention, but it's much bolder and stronger. When would I take a position like this? In the workshops, it works very effectively when you're coming back from break. My turn to talk, so I take a strong position in the front of the room, and then I usually ask a question of the audience to get everyone to look at me. So two more that I want to show, and these two get used. Those are some almost poses that you would use. Now let me show you stance, and you're going to use one of these two every time you speak. You'll use one of the two. The first one that we'll show is the informal or casual stance. The informal or casual stance, you'll notice something about the way Cynthia's standing. You tell me, where's the majority of her weight? Be kind. I know. It's on which leg? It's on her right leg. She's got the majority of the weight on her right leg. When you stand and you're not balanced as far as weight goes, you have more weight on one leg than the other. We call that the casual stance. If you move it to a formal stance, you feel like you're in a catalog? Yeah. If you move to a formal stance, you balance the weight on both legs, and we call this formal. So when would I use that? Again, it depends. Think about your audience. What are they expecting? Is it a casual conversation? Well, then maybe more weight on one leg. Is it more formal? I'm speaking to executives. Okay, well, if it's a more formal environment, maybe you want to stand tall, straight, and equal weight on both legs. It looks very, for Cynthia, it looks very poised. Thank you, Cynthia. So a couple other items with body language, moving up from the stance and the posture when you are presenting. We can move up further to the question that we probably get asked most often. What do I do with these? What do I do with these hands? I'll give you the answer. It's 3 words. Movement with purpose. That's it. Movement with purpose. And somebody will say, what does that mean and how do I do that? You already know how to do it. Think of yourself at your home or you're at a networking event, you're talking to some people, you're sharing some stories, maybe having a cocktail, you're speaking to them and telling them about something that happened at work that day. Are you using your hands when you speak? I bet you are. Are you thinking about it? No, you're probably not. And do you look natural? Probably. Could we still refine that from a presentation standpoint? Yeah, maybe. It might have a little unrefined energy. You probably know the people I'm talking about, or you might be that person, right? A little too much movement there, so we need to refine it. But you move your hands naturally all day long. It's just when you step on the stage, you start thinking about it and it becomes unnatural, and you start to look like a robot. We don't coach people to look like robots. We want you to be natural. So here's the best way to get natural gestures. We want movement with purpose. And the way that you do that is follow the process we've taught you so far. The more rehearsed and prepared you are, your brain's going to get out of the way, and your hands will naturally fall into alignment with what you're doing, right? So that's the hands. Final piece I'll leave you with is just the facial expressions. Even in a large room, facial expressions are important. Two things that you need to know: eye contact and smile. As Cynthia shared with us, or I shared, something that Cynthia gives us is she talks about power and confidence and likability or approachability. And we want both of those to be as high as possible when you're speaking to an audience. One of the best ways to bring your approachability up from the very beginning is to give someone a natural smile. It's got to be natural. What does that mean? Science tells us it's 4 seconds or less. Really? Yes, and I think you already know that it's true. How many people, well, I already asked about the kids. You get all the cousins together and the kids, you want to take their picture? Have you done this? All right, you kids get over there. No, get over there. Yeah, all right, everybody smile. Everyone smile. Wait, oh, hold on. Keep smiling. Keep smiling. Keep smiling. Oh, hold on. Okay, keep smiling. Click. Oh, come on. That's not a smile. You're just showing your teeth. 90% of human beings can only hold a natural smile for 4 seconds or less. 1 in 10 people can fake it. So when you get the kids together, my kids know this already, I tell them don't smile. And that makes them start giggling right away. Don't smile. No smiles. And they're like, really? Your dad doesn't want us to smile? No, no smiling. And then all we do is we tell them to smile right before we click it. Final piece is eye contact. And here's the simple rule for this. As you're looking out to the audience, you should really only be looking for one thing: other eyeballs. That's it. Keep in mind that later when Kevin talks about voice and what you say and how you say it, we want to align that so that all three of these channels are sending that same message.